Your ideal self already exists. Reprogram your mind and unlock it in 90 days. There is a greater version of you, already living in the unseen, a powerful, confident, successful self that has been waiting for your recognition. This ideal self is not a dream, it is a spiritual reality, already complete in the mind of the infinite. And the moment you accept this truth, the moment you claim it as yours, your subconscious mind begins to shape your outer world according to that inner image. Your thoughts are not empty. Your beliefs are not weak. They are creative forces, silently building your future with absolute precision. For too long, many people look outside themselves for miracles, but the miracle is within you, waiting for permission to manifest. And over the next 90 days, you will give that permission. You will reprogram your mind, dissolve the old patterns of fear and failure, and plant new seeds of confidence, abundance, and purpose. Listen closely. When you impress your subconscious with a clear image of your ideal self, the universe rearranges circumstances, attracts the right people, and opens doors you never imagined. What you once called impossible becomes inevitable. Today, you are not here to change yourself, you are here to awaken yourself. You are here to step into the life already prepared for you. You are here to claim the identity that has been calling your name. And when the conscious and subconscious mind unite in harmony, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop the emergence of your ideal self. In these next moments, allow every word to sink deep into your subconscious. Feel the truth of it, accept it, claim it, because the next 90 days won't just change your habits. The idea that your ideal self already exists in the subconscious blueprint is one of the most liberating truths you can ever discover. Most people spend their lives believing they must struggle, fight, and force their way into becoming someone better, someone more capable, someone more confident or successful. But the deeper spiritual reality is this: the self you dream of becoming is not a distant fantasy or a future hope. It is an inner pattern already present within the subconscious mind, waiting to be recognized, accepted, and brought into expression. You are not creating a new identity from scratch. You are unveiling the identity that has always existed beneath layers of fear, doubt, and conditioning. Your subconscious mind holds within it a perfect design for your growth, success, and fulfillment, what Joseph Murphy called the divine pattern. This ideal self is like a seed containing the full potential of the tree. The seed doesn't need to struggle or force itself to grow. It simply needs the right conditions for expression. Similarly, your ideal self does not need your stress or worry, only your awareness and cooperation. The moment you begin to accept that this higher version of yourself is already real on the inside, you activate the spiritual law of correspondence. As within, so without. Your outer world mirrors the inner blueprint you hold in your mind. The reason many people never reach their potential is not because their ideal self doesn't exist. It is because they have never believed in it long enough to let it emerge. They hold mental pictures of limitation, unworthiness, and past failure, and these images become their reality. But the subconscious does not judge and does not question. It simply expresses whatever image you consistently feed it. When you shift that image from fear to self-belief, from doubt to inner conviction, you awaken the dormant pattern of your ideal self. At that moment, life begins to change from the inside out. Circumstances adjust, opportunities appear, confidence rises, and the world seems to align in your favor, not because you forced it, but because you accepted the truth of who you really are. The subconscious blueprint of your ideal self contains everything you need: clarity, strength, discipline, confidence, intuition, creativity, abundance, purpose, and peace. These qualities are not something you must earn. They are inherent, already built into the deeper fabric of your being. But to access them, you must remove the mental obstacles blocking their expression. Doubt, fear, negative self-talk, and memories of past disappointment act like clouds covering the sun. The sun never disappears, it is simply obscured. In the same way, your ideal self never leaves you. It only waits for the clouds of old thinking to dissolve. You reprogram the subconscious not by force, but through repetition, imagination, belief, and emotional acceptance. Each time you hold the mental picture of your ideal self, seeing it, feeling it, believing in it, you impress a new pattern on the subconscious mind. The subconscious responds by guiding your behavior, decisions, and circumstances to match that picture. This is not magic, it is law. The creative intelligence within you always seeks to manifest the image you identify with most deeply. If you identify with weakness, your life becomes constrained. If you identify with strength, your life expands. If you see yourself as limited, your actions follow. But if you see yourself as capable, worthy, and powerful, the subconscious organizes your reality to reflect that truth. When you embrace the idea that your ideal self already exists, transformation becomes easier, faster, and more natural. You stop trying to become someone new and instead allow the real you to surface. You begin to think differently, speak differently, act differently, and feel differently, not because you are forcing change, but because you are aligning with your true nature. Everything you desire, success, confidence, health, peace, prosperity, begins as an inner acceptance. The subconscious blueprint does the rest. This understanding gives you freedom. You are no longer a victim of past conditioning. You are no longer limited by old beliefs or labels. You no longer doubt whether you can become the person you aspire to be. You recognize that the ideal self is not a distant dream, but a present reality. And every moment you choose thoughts that match this inner identity, you move closer to expressing it fully. Your ideal self is not waiting for years, or for perfect circumstances, or for approval from others. It is waiting for one thing only, your recognition. The moment you accept it as real, it begins to shape your world. Impressing the mind daily with the image you want to manifest is one of the most powerful practices for transforming your life, because the subconscious mind works entirely through the pictures and ideas you repeatedly feed it. Every thought you return to again and again becomes a mental pattern, and every mental pattern becomes a cause that eventually produces an effect in your outer reality. Most people allow their minds to be impressed by random images, fear, failure, worry, past mistakes, or imagined disasters. They absorb these pictures unconsciously through conversations, media, and habit. Then they wonder why life keeps repeating the same outcomes. The truth is simple. Your subconscious can only express what you consistently plant within it. If you want a different life, you must give it a different pattern. You must give it a clear, vivid, emotionally charged picture of who you intend to become. The process of impressing the mind begins with deliberate, intentional mental imagery. You choose the person you want to be, the calm, confident, disciplined, successful, abundant version of yourself. You craft this identity in your imagination as if it were already real. You see how you walk, talk, think, act, decide, and carry yourself. You visualize the situations where your ideal self shows up automatically. This mental picture must be detailed enough that your subconscious accepts it as a real possibility, yet simple enough that you can return to it every day without effort. The more clearly you can see it in your mind's eye, the faster it becomes a subconscious imprint. The key to this practice is repetition. A single visualization, no matter how strong, is not enough to change deeply embedded beliefs. The subconscious absorbs through consistent exposure. What you repeat becomes familiar, and what becomes familiar becomes accepted. This is why daily mental rehearsal is essential. When you spend even a few minutes each day holding the image of your ideal self, you gradually overwrite old patterns. You weaken the neural pathways of fear and strengthen the pathways of confidence. You dissolve old emotional associations and create new ones. Your subconscious begins to interpret your imagined identity not as fantasy, but as the new normal. Emotion plays an important role in this process. The subconscious responds most strongly to images that carry feeling. If you visualize your ideal self with a sense of excitement, confidence, gratitude, or certainty, the impression becomes deeper. This emotional charge acts like glue, binding the image to your inner mind. You don't need to force the feeling. You simply allow yourself to feel the reality of who you are becoming. When you imagine success and feel even a hint of pride or joy, when you imagine confidence and feel a spark of strength, you are programming the subconscious in the most powerful way possible. Feeling is the language the subconscious understands best. Consistency matters more than intensity. 5 minutes of focused daily mental imagery can alter your life more profoundly than an occasional hour of visualization with no follow-up. Just like exercise reshapes the body through repeated engagement, mental imagery reshapes identity through repeated focus. The mind becomes what it constantly sees. Every day you visualize the person you want to be. You are casting a vote for that identity. Over time, those votes accumulate and become part of who you are. As you repeat the same inner image day after day, something extraordinary happens. Your behaviors begin to shift without struggle. You start making choices that align with your ideal self. Opportunities that once felt intimidating become natural. Habits that once seemed difficult become effortless. You feel pulled, not pushed, toward the future you desire. This is because the subconscious acts like a guiding force, steering your actions, instincts, and decisions toward the image that dominates your inner world. You no longer need willpower to force change. The change flows from the identity your mind has accepted. The more you impress the mind with the vision of who you want to be, the less influence your old patterns have. Thoughts that once frightened you lose their power. Self-doubt begins to fade. Procrastination weakens. Confidence grows as your subconscious organizes your emotions and behavior to match the new inner pattern. This is the natural, automatic process of mental transformation. Daily mental imagery is not a ritual. It is a conversation with your subconscious. Every time you visualize your ideal self, you are saying, "This is who I am now." And the subconscious, obedient and creative, responds by reshaping your outer reality to reflect that truth. By returning to the same image again and again, you form a bond between your present self and your future self until the two become identical. The life you want begins first as a picture in the mind, and through daily repetition, that picture becomes your identity, and your identity becomes your destiny. What you accept as true, your subconscious must reproduce, because the subconscious mind does not argue, debate, or analyze. It simply responds. It has no power to reject an idea, it only has the power to express it. Whatever belief you hold with feeling, repetition, and conviction becomes a command that the subconscious carries out with absolute obedience. This is one of the most important spiritual laws of the mind and one of the most misunderstood. Most people accept beliefs casually, unconsciously, without realizing the power they're handing over. They accept limitations because others told them so. They accept fear because they felt it once. They accept failure because something didn't work in the past. And without knowing it, they stamp these beliefs onto the subconscious as truth. Once accepted, the subconscious works tirelessly to bring these beliefs into physical form. It recreates the same patterns, attracts similar situations, and shapes behavior to match the accepted inner narrative. The subconscious does not distinguish between a belief that empowers you and one that harms you. It does not evaluate whether a thought is logical or helpful. It only knows one law: whatever you accept, it expresses. If you accept that you are capable, that you can rise, that you can improve and succeed, the subconscious organizes your mind, emotions, and circumstances to support that belief. If you accept that you are limited, unworthy, or destined to struggle, the same law applies. The subconscious begins creating situations, habits, and reactions that reinforce the belief. This is why people often feel trapped in cycles. They keep accepting the same beliefs as true, and the subconscious keeps producing the same outcomes. Belief is the mold into which the subconscious pours your life. When you accept something as true, even if it is not visible yet, you are shaping the mold through which your future experiences will flow. The subconscious cannot operate outside the boundaries of your beliefs. If you believe that something is impossible for you, your subconscious will block every attempt, cloud your judgment, create hesitation, or attract failure, all to remain faithful to the belief you accepted. But the moment you change the belief, the entire pattern begins to shift. You are never stuck because of circumstances. You are only stuck in the beliefs that the subconscious is expressing. Acceptance does not mean passive agreement, it means emotional consent. When you feel something deeply, when you repeat it often, when you imagine it vividly, you are accepting it as truth. Even if you consciously wish for change, the subconscious might still be expressing old beliefs if they were accepted long ago and reinforced through years of repetition. This is why affirmations, visualization, and mental reframing work so powerfully. They provide a new truth for the subconscious to accept. Once accepted, the subconscious must reproduce it just as faithfully as it reproduced the outdated patterns. Your entire life is quietly shaped by the truths you have accepted. Consider how a simple belief can affect behavior. If you accept that you are confident, you naturally act with confidence. If you accept that you are worthy of abundance, you make decisions aligned with abundance. If you accept that you can learn any skill, you persist until mastery. The belief shapes the behavior, and the behavior shapes the results. Yet people often attempt to change results without changing beliefs, which is why progress feels difficult. When the belief changes, effort becomes lighter and outcomes more consistent. One of the most transformative realizations you can have is that you can choose what you accept as true. You can reject old beliefs no matter how long they have lived in your mind. You can dismiss inherited fears, redefine your identity, and claim a new inner truth. The subconscious is always listening, always responding, always creating. It is never tired or resistant. It simply needs a new blueprint to follow, and you provide that blueprint through your acceptance. If you begin to accept ideas of success, healing, confidence, abundance, intelligence, and inner strength, your subconscious adopts these truths with the same obedience it once applied to the limiting ones. It will reshape your instincts, guide your intuition, alter your habits, and quietly attract people and experiences that match your new belief system. This is not wishful thinking, it is the natural functioning of the mind. Belief is the first cause, life is the effect. When you understand that the subconscious must reproduce whatever you accept as true, you take back your power. You stop letting the world decide your identity. You stop allowing fear to dictate what is possible for you. You become the author of your inner truth, and the subconscious becomes the loyal servant that brings that truth to life. All real transformation begins with one choice: deciding what you will accept as true from this moment forward. Repetition, belief, and feeling reprogram the mind in 90 days because the subconscious does not change through force or logic. It changes through consistent emotional imprinting. Most people try to improve their lives with bursts of motivation or scattered effort, but the subconscious requires steady, rhythmic input to accept a new idea as its operating pattern. Just as a drop of water, falling repeatedly, can carve through stone, a thought repeated daily with conviction can carve a new identity into the deepest layers of the mind. This is why change feels slow at first, then suddenly accelerates. The early days are the softening stage, where old beliefs loosen. The following weeks are the imprinting stage, where new ideas begin to take root. By the end of 90 days, the once new belief feels natural, familiar, and instinctive. The mind accepts it as truth, and your outer behavior starts to reflect it effortlessly. Repetition is the first key, because the subconscious learns through familiarity. What you repeat becomes believable simply because your mind has encountered it many times. Most limiting beliefs were formed this way through repeated messages from childhood, society, or past experiences. You didn't consciously choose them. They became truth through exposure. In the same way, you can introduce empowering beliefs not as a sudden overthrow of the old, but as a steady replacement. When you visualize your ideal self repeatedly, when you speak affirmations daily, when you mentally rehearse success over and over, the subconscious slowly begins to accept the new image. You are essentially training the mind to consider the desired identity as normal. The more normal it feels internally, the more naturally it appears externally. Belief is the second pillar, because repetition without belief becomes mechanical and weak. The subconscious responds to the ideas you genuinely expect to be true, not the ones you half-heartedly hope for. However, belief is not something you force. It grows through repetition and gentle acceptance. At first, you may not fully believe the new idea, especially if it contradicts past experiences. But with daily repetition, belief begins to take shape. You start imagining the possibility. You sense glimpses of confidence. You experience small shifts in your thinking or behavior. These small evidences reinforce belief, and belief strengthens the imprint. This creates a cycle where repetition builds belief, and belief makes repetition more powerful. Feeling is the third and most potent force, because emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. A thought felt deeply is engraved far more quickly than a thought repeated without emotion. When you visualize your ideal self with excitement, pride, gratitude, or certainty, the subconscious absorbs the message as a lived experience. It responds to emotion as if the imagined event is happening now. This is why athletes use visualization to improve performance, because the brain and body react to vivid mental imagery almost identically to real-life action. When you combine repetition with genuine feeling, the subconscious receives a strong impression, and that impression begins reshaping habits, reactions, and expectations. The reason this process takes about 90 days is not random. It aligns with the natural cycles of neuroplastic change, how the brain forms new pathways and weakens old ones. The first 30 days weaken and interrupt old patterns. The next 30 begin wiring new patterns. The final 30 stabilize the change until it becomes part of your identity. At this point, the new belief feels automatic. You no longer need to push yourself to think differently. Your mind thinks from the new identity. You no longer need to remind yourself to act confidently. Confidence arises naturally. The subconscious has accepted the new blueprint and now expresses it instinctively. During these 90 days, the external world begins to shift as well, because your subconscious influences everything: your decisions, tone of voice, posture, intuition, boundaries, habits. energy, and perceptions. As inner change strengthens, you begin making choices aligned with your new identity. You stop acting from your old limitations and start behaving like the person you are becoming. Life responds accordingly. Opportunities that match your new self-image appear. Situations that once triggered fear feel manageable. People treat you according to the confidence or clarity you now radiate. This is not coincidence. It is the outer world mirroring the inner. Reprogramming the mind is not a mystical process. It is a disciplined one. Repetition introduces the new idea. Belief strengthens it. Feeling engraves it. 90 days is the incubation period through which your mind reshapes itself around the patterns you feed it. When you commit to this process, you stop fighting your old self and begin building your new identity from within. And once the subconscious accepts the new pattern, it becomes your default way of thinking, acting, and living, a transformation that remains with you long after the 90 days have passed. Alignment of thought and emotion activates manifestation because the subconscious mind responds most powerfully when your inner world is unified. Thought alone is not enough, and emotion alone is not enough. But when the two come together, when you think a clear idea and feel its reality at the same time, you create a state of inner harmony that the subconscious interprets as a command. This alignment forms a magnetic field within you that draws circumstances, opportunities, people, and experiences that match your inner state. Manifestation is not about wishing or forcing, it is about creating internal coherence. When your thoughts point in one direction but your emotions pull in another, the subconscious receives mixed signals and produces mixed results. You might think about success but feel fear, think about confidence but feel doubt, think about prosperity but feel unworthy. In these cases, the emotion dominates because the subconscious responds more strongly to feeling than to logic. This is why many people struggle. They try to think positively while feeling negatively. The subconscious listens to the feeling. True change begins when your thoughts and emotions say the same thing. When you think, "I am capable," and you feel capable, the subconscious accepts it. When you think, "I deserve abundance," and you feel deserving, the subconscious begins to reorganize your inner programming. When you think, "I am becoming my ideal self," and you feel the excitement or certainty of that truth, manifestation begins immediately. This alignment is like tuning a radio frequency. If the station is slightly off, the message is distorted. But when the frequency is exact, the message comes through clearly. Thought is the frequency, emotion is the volume. Together, they shape the reality you experience. The subconscious uses emotion as evidence. If you imagine a desired future with strong feeling, the subconscious interprets it as a real event. It cannot distinguish between an emotionally vivid imagination and an actual experience. This is why athletes rehearse success mentally and emotionally. They are programming their subconscious to expect a certain performance. When you imagine your ideal self with emotions of confidence, gratitude, joy, strength, or certainty, the subconscious believes that this identity is already yours. It then begins reorganizing your impulses, habits, and perceptions to match this identity. This internal shift is what people call manifestation, but it is simply the subconscious expressing the new pattern. Alignment also dissolves inner resistance. Many people have desires blocked by conflicting emotions. They want success, but feel undeserving. They want love, but fear rejection. They want growth, but fear change. These emotional contradictions act as brakes on manifestation. When thoughts and emotions align, the brakes release. You no longer sabotage your own progress. You stop arguing with yourself internally. You stop creating friction between what you want and how you feel. Instead, the subconscious moves smoothly in the direction you have chosen. You begin to notice unexpected opportunities and intuitive nudges guiding you forward, not because something outside changed, but because your inner world is no longer fighting itself. The power of alignment also shows up in behavior. When you think confidently and feel confident, you behave confidently. When you think abundantly and feel abundant, you make decisions from abundance instead of fear. When you think empowered thoughts and feel empowered emotions, your actions carry strength and clarity. These aligned actions create new experiences, and new experiences reinforce the inner belief. It becomes a cycle. Aligned inner state leads to aligned outer behavior, which leads to aligned results, which strengthen the aligned inner state. Alignment is also what gives manifestation speed. When thought and emotion contradict each other, manifestation is slow because the subconscious must sort through conflicting instructions. But when both are matched, the subconscious acts instantly. You feel pulled toward your goals rather than pushing yourself with willpower. You feel guided rather than confused. You feel aligned rather than scattered. This internal clarity radiates outward and influences your environment. The beautiful truth is that alignment is a skill, not luck. You cultivate it through daily mental imagery, affirmations connected with emotion, gratitude practices, and intentional focus. Each time you imagine your ideal self with genuine feeling, you strengthen the alignment. Each time you speak a belief with conviction, you reinforce the frequency. Each time you act in harmony with your desired identity, you deepen the imprint. Over time, alignment becomes your natural state, and manifestation becomes a normal outcome of your inner coherence. When your thoughts and emotions finally move together, the subconscious receives a clear signal, and life rearranges itself accordingly. The outer world becomes a mirror of the inner one, and what once seemed distant begins unfolding with surprising ease, not because the world changed, but because you aligned with the version of yourself capable of receiving it. You don't chase transformation, you reveal your true self, because everything you are trying to become is already present within you in potential form. The greatest misunderstanding people carry is the belief that they must force themselves into a new identity, fight endlessly against old habits, or struggle to create qualities they lack. But the deeper truth is that the qualities you seek, confidence, strength, discipline, peace, purpose, abundance, already exist inside you. They are not things you acquire, they are things you uncover. Transformation is therefore not a matter of becoming something new, but releasing the layers that have been hiding who you always were. You are not creating a higher version of yourself, you are uncovering it. Your true self is the self beneath fear, beneath conditioning, beneath the opinions of others, beneath childhood programming, beneath the limitations you adopted without question. This true self is the identity aligned with clarity, love, power, and purpose. It has been present since the beginning, quietly waiting for your recognition. The only reason you cannot see it at times is because it is covered by accumulated beliefs, beliefs that say you are not enough, beliefs that say you must prove your worth, beliefs that say the world is against you, beliefs that keep you small. These beliefs act like dust on a mirror. They distort the reflection. The mirror remains perfect, untouched, unbroken. Once you remove the dust, the true reflection appears effortlessly. This is why chasing transformation often leads to frustration. When you chase, you operate from a mindset that assumes you lack something. You affirm to yourself, "I am not good enough yet. I am not strong enough yet. I am not successful yet." These beliefs, held as emotional truths, reinforce the very limitations you are trying to break. The subconscious mind takes "not enough" as a command and expresses it outwardly. You become caught in a loop where the effort to change keeps you tied to the identity you are trying to escape. But when you shift into the understanding that everything you desire already exists in you, transformation becomes natural instead of forced. You no longer try to become confident, you allow your inherent confidence to surface. You no longer try to become disciplined, you align with the disciplined part of yourself that already exists. You no longer try to become abundant, you remove the beliefs that blocked abundance from expressing itself. Growth becomes an unfolding process, not a battle. Revealing your true self requires introspection, awareness, and a willingness to let go of the stories you have carried for years. These stories may have been useful at some point. They helped you survive, helped you navigate life, helped you make sense of your past. But they are not the truth of who you are. They are temporary garments worn by the mind. Your essence remains untouched beneath them. When you stop identifying with these old stories, even for a moment, you feel glimpses of your real nature, peace, clarity, strength, inner knowing, and a quiet but powerful sense that you are more than you were taught to believe. The process of revealing the true self is not dramatic, it is gentle. It does not require force, it requires surrender. It is not about effort, it is about recognition. When you sit with yourself without judgment, when you observe your thoughts instead of becoming them, when you feel your emotions without labeling them, when you allow silence into your inner world, the layers begin to fall away. What remains is not a new identity but the original one, your authentic state, free from noise. As you reveal more of your true self, your actions begin to change automatically. You no longer need to push yourself to make better decisions. Better decisions arise naturally because they align with your higher identity. You stop chasing validation because your inherent worth becomes obvious. You stop fearing failure because your deeper self is not harmed by outcomes. You stop comparing yourself to others because you recognize that your path is uniquely designed for your growth. Your life becomes simpler, clearer, and more powerful. When you reveal your true self, your external world begins to reorganize. People respond differently to you. Opportunities come more naturally. You notice synchronicities that guide your path. These changes do not happen because you forced them, they happen because your inner state changed. The outer world reflects the inner world. Once the inner world aligns with your true nature, the outer world must follow. This is why the ultimate transformation is not becoming someone new, but remembering who you really are. You were born whole. You were born worthy. You were born with gifts, intuition, creativity, resilience, and inner brilliance. Everything you seek is already within you, waiting for the moment you stop chasing and start revealing. When you understand this, transformation becomes not an exhausting journey, but a profound homecoming to the self that has always been there. The truth I want you to carry with you today is simple, yet extraordinary. Nothing about your ideal self is missing. It is not something you chase, it is something you release. Within the deeper regions of your subconscious mind lies a blueprint of mastery, abundance, harmony, and perfect self-expression. Every image you impressed, every affirmation you repeated, every moment you chose faith over fear has been shaping that blueprint into form. You are not becoming something new, you are allowing what has always been yours to emerge. As you move forward from this moment, remember that your thoughts are not idle. They are creative forces, living energies, seeds that move into the soil of your subconscious and grow after their kind. When you choose the thought of your ideal self, when you dwell upon it with quiet conviction and emotional certainty, you activate a law that cannot fail, a law as exact as gravity and as generous as sunlight. You are tuning your mind to a reality that already exists, aligning your inner vibration with the version of you who walks in clarity, confidence, purpose, and prosperity. Let these next 90 days be a sacred partnership between you and your deeper mind. Speak to it with authority. Feed it only the images that bless, heal, uplift, and expand your life. Every night before sleep, imprint the picture of your ideal self, already fulfilled, already whole, already living the life you desire. Every morning, act as if that self is guiding you, speaking through you, choosing for you. In doing so, you collapse the distance between who you think you are and who you truly are. If doubt tries to whisper, let it fade like a shadow before the rising sun of your new awareness. If old patterns attempt to pull you back, bless them and let them go. They have served their purpose. You are stepping into your divine inheritance, the limitless creative power that has always lived within you. Nothing and no one can stand between you and the expression of your highest self except your own acceptance or rejection of that truth. Today, make the quiet, unwavering decision to become a faithful steward of your inner world. Guard your thoughts, direct your imagination. Speak only words that agree with the reality you intend to experience. When your inner state is aligned, your outer world must follow, for the subconscious mind cannot resist the imprint of sustained belief. What you choose to believe about yourself becomes the law of your life. So, walk forward now, with calm confidence. Know that the ideal you seek is not far away. It is here, breathing in you, thinking through you, waiting only for your recognition. Let your mind be renewed, let your heart be steady, let your imagination be disciplined and alive with possibility. Over these 90 days, you are not merely setting goals, you are awakening a self that has always been prepared to emerge. The power is within you, the law responds to you. The ideal self already exists for you. And as you reprogram your mind with faith, clarity, and unwavering expectation, you will unlock it not someday, not in the distant future, but now, as a living realization.